Howard Bryant of what, HBO, NPR, ESPN, he's everywhere. He joins us here on A's Pregame Live. Howard, your book just came out, Rickey, The Life and Legend of an American Original. Congratulations on getting the book on Rickey Henderson out. I just got to know, I mean, Rickey's kind of a slippery guy, like hard to catch on the base paths, hard to catch in real life. How many sessions did you have with Rickey?
Rickey gave me about 5 sessions to talk, and as Stu knows, he was the one who was instrumental in getting those 5 started up. And Rickey was great. He was fantastic. He was funny. He was incredible in terms of the stories that he told and the awareness of his life. I think the thing about this book that I really, really love is that so much of it comes from him. And then Rickey did what Rickey can also do, which is then decide not to talk to you for the next couple of years. And so it took a lot of reporting. And I'm really, really grateful to his wife Pamela, because without her, it really doesn't happen. It goes back to her dedication to his greatness. She wanted to make sure that people never forget that this guy not only was the player that he was and the representative of Oakland that he was, but absolutely obliterated the record book as well.
Hey, Howard, and when doing a book like this, and you're talking about a subject like Rickey, what did you want to capture the most? What did you want the people who are reading this book, what did you want to capture? What did you want them to know?
Well, I wanted to capture 2 things primarily. I think the first thing was I wanted him to represent Oakland, to understand. It's like whenever I work on a project, Stu, it really does come down to, I look at it like a coal engine, and you're shoveling coal into the engine and you're asking yourself, what's that coal made of? Who is the subject? And with Rickey, what I really wanted to get across was his desire to win, that his desire to be great. People talk so much about Rickey in terms of all the third person Rickey and the wacky stories and the truth versus fiction Rickey. This player, Rickey Henderson, is a giant. I mean, not just a great player, I mean, an absolute giant. And one of the things that I was really trying to get at in talking about this was the real, you step back, whether you're looking at it anecdotally from seeing him with your own 2 eyes, looking at him numerically, statistically, through the lens of analytics. He might very well be the greatest non-home run hitter of all time in terms of his ability to affect the game. And I wanted to make sure that people didn't forget that. Tell all the stories you want, tell all the third-person tales you want, but do not forget what this man was on a baseball field.
Howard, you talk about, documenting Rickey and maybe the impression that a lot of people have about him, like before they read your book, right? What are they going to learn about him new, or maybe what caught you by surprise as you did all these interviews and did all this research? What's the new material here? Maybe one thing you could give us.
Well, I think my favorite piece about Rickey, just in terms of the story, is here's a player. It's a story of time. It's a story of time and what time does to people, in that here's a guy who really was not a very popular player when he first started. He was one of the most disliked players in the game. And how he went from that to a player that by the end, everybody wanted to celebrate and everyone wanted to cherish and everybody missed. And that here's a guy who that by the end is this combination of Yogi Berra and Satchel Paige, where he wanted to play forever. Here's a guy that people talked about when he was playing like he was lazy and that he wasn't dedicated to his craft. And yet, how can that be when he wanted to play forever? Here's how amazing Rickey was. Rickey started his career in 1979, and his last at-bat was in 2003 with the Dodgers. And at the end of the 2001 season, he joined the Red Sox. From 1979 until his first at-bat with the Red Sox, he had stolen more bases than the entire Red Sox franchise. That's impossible. I mean, that never happens. I mean, this is comic book stuff when you're talking about what Rickey did. I mean, most all-time records take a career. That's why they're called career records. You look at Hank Aaron when he broke Babe Ruth's record. He's 40 years old and he's sort of sagging around the bases. He's not the old Hank Aaron. Rickey broke Lou Brock's record. He was 32.
Yikes.
He held an active record for a dozen years as a player. It's incredible.
I got to witness that one in person. It'll go down as one of my favorite memories. Howard, you've been around long enough to the point that you covered Dave Stewart in his playing days. You want to take us down that road, and specifically how he always loved pitching against Roger Clemens?
One of my all-time favorite interviews of this book was with Dave Stewart. I mean, there's a lot of great interviews in this book, and for me, it's so much fun. As a Boston kid, I was in high school the first year that Stu and Clemens met, and I was in college when those Red Sox and A's battles took place. And my favorite quote from Stu, which the one at least that I can say on the air, was simply how important it was for him to be remembered. That's what I think I loved most about Stu, where he was talking about how if you're going to talk about Roger Clemens and Jack Morris and Dan Petrie and Mark Gubiza and the rest of these guys, don't forget about me. And everybody that talks about Stu, they talk about that drive. I got out of there going, I got to do Dave Stewart next. That's the next book.
Well, if you need any quotes on that one, I might know a guy. Howard, thank you so much for joining us. Really do appreciate this. And best of luck on the book. I hope everybody gets to buy and read a copy.
My pleasure. And thank you, Stu, for all your help on it.
Oh, shoot, Howard, thanks for doing this with us.
My pleasure.
Is that called a foreword in a book, the beginning part? Do you think I could write the foreword of your book?
No, brother.
He wore really tight pants, and he struck a lot of people out while staring them down.
Brody, you're out.
That's basically Stu right there.